While it may seem like a no-brainer to buy a house if the mortgage payment is lower than the rent, but this argument is not always true. In this video, we will give you a 4-step simple yet powerful framework to help you determine if you should rent or buy your next home. Affordability is one of the main factors you want to consider. Can you afford to pay the down payment for the house? For example, the down payment on a house worth $500,000 would be around $100,000. So you need to decide if you have enough in savings to be able to pay for the down payment. You also need to consider if you can sustain the mortgage payments for the house in the long term without stretching yourself too thin. When calculating the rent that you can afford, use the rent to income ratio of 30%. If your monthly income is $5,000, then your rent should ideally not exceed 30% of it, or $1,500. When calculating your mortgage affordability, we use a slightly different number of 28%. So with the same $5,000 a month salary, your mortgage affordability would be $1,400 or 28%. Rising mortgage rates caused many households to be priced out from home buying and has forced would-be buyers to remain renters. Understanding cost variability is also an important factor. Mortgage payments are fixed for the long term, assuming you're taking a fixed rate mortgage, which is what I would highly advise. But there are still variable costs to home ownership. You can expect 1% of the value of your house to be your annual property tax, and you should also set additional 1% aside for any maintenance costs. The maintenance cost itself is variable. Sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's higher, but you need to understand that it does add a variable cost component to your budget. Rent, however, varies over time. In the last 5 years, from 2017 to 2022, rent went up annually by 5.7%. But the pandemic changed everything, and between 2021 and 2022, rent went up by 14%. If your salary is not increasing at the same rate at which the rent is, you will soon shoot past the 30% rent to income ratio. The national rent to income ratio reached 30% for the first time ever since it started being tracked over 20 plus years ago. USA is now rent burdened with the following rent to income ratio in major metros: New York, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Los Angeles, Palm Beach, Northern New Jersey, and Boston all have the rent to income ratio greater than 30%, with New York being far in the lead with it being 68.5%, with Miami being second at 41.6%. If you're unable to afford the rent increases, you can always downsize to keep your rent the same or lower it further. The next factor to consider is the opportunity cost. What else can you do with the down payment that you have made towards this house, and can that give you significantly better returns than buying a house? According to S&P 500, the annual return for stock market in the US since 1928 to 2020 has averaged at around 10% per year. The median existing home price in US in 1970 was $23,000, while the median home price in 2020 was $309,800. This represents an approximate annual growth of around 4.1%, although this growth can vary widely depending on the location and the time period being considered. This makes the stock market seem like a no-brainer, but hold on, because real estate has this concept of leverage baked into it. You only pay 20%, but get upside or downside on 100% of the value of the house. It is important to know that leverage will come down over time because of mortgage payment. An example of opportunity cost is that the stock market went up 331% compared to its price in 2010, whereas the condo that I had bought in 2010 for $175,000 is currently valued at $431,000. So my down payment of close to $50,000 has grown 800% in terms of the value of the condo. The The last thing to consider is ease of access to value. Real estate investments are generally not liquid. What that means is for you to be able to access the value locked in your house, you would have to end up selling your house or refinancing your house, both of which can take time if you're planning on moving soon or unsure if you want to stay in a certain location for the long term. Then renting is preferred as you can just get up and leave. If you need easy access to the money in the near term, defer buying the real estate to a later date. As a renter, you have not made a big down payment to live in the house, so access to money is not dependent on you finding a buyer. However, when you pay rent, your money is spent forever, whereas when you pay mortgage, the interest is spent forever, but the principal payments go towards you building equity in your house. They are not lost forever, but locked until you can sell the house to cash it out. Easy access to money also means easy spending. So buying a house can be a great method for forced savings. Do not consider your primary house as an investment, as you always need a place to go stay. If you end up selling your house at a higher price, the new place that you can buy would also likely be at a higher price. However, the appreciation that you get on selling your house is on the entire value of the house and not just the 20% that you paid, which can of course help you get a bigger house if that is what you desire, as long as you can afford the monthly payment. This concept of starting off with a condo or a smaller house and working your way up to a much bigger house as your household grows is called the property ladder. In conclusion, housing is an expense we all have to bear. If you can afford the down payments, the monthly payments do not stretch you too thin, want to stay in an area for the foreseeable future, and do not need access to the money that you will use for down payment in the near term, then I would definitely advise you to consider buying a house. The first house that I bought was a small condo because that is what I could afford at that point in time. If you later want to buy a bigger house, you could either sell your first house and use the equity gains towards your new house, or if you have enough money saved for the down payment on the new house, you could convert your first house into an investment property where you can earn passive income via rent. The rising interest rate and home prices have made buying a house less affordable. The rising rent is also eating into our savings. I highly recommend paying off your high interest debt first, building an emergency fund, and then save for the down payment for your first house in the property ladder. For insights on how you can pay off your loans faster without taking on additional financial risks, check out my video right here. And until next time, goodbye.